Okay, so we're going to talk about this evening what's going on with Claudia Rankine's Citizen. And in relation to understanding the content of the text, we're going to try to make it make sense for your overall final project, which will be a build up into what would allow you at some point to write a research paper about this particular book. But we're not going to really write the research paper. We're going to develop it in component parts so that you can understand the value of research and topic proposals, bibliographies, close readings, all kind of combining into one of the other pieces. So this is going to be, I highly suggest having your book ready because I'm going to be referencing it in a number of different ways, talking about different places we can move into and how we conduct some of that research. And I'm going to show you a few things and share my screen with you. So, and may have to pause it here and there. But I'm going to try to keep this one, as always, to a relatively short amount. So there may be multiple videos covering Citizen. I implore you to watch them all. So please, if we can, we'll get into this one. So here we go. Citizen by Claudia Rankine. So one of the first things, we're only going to go through the first section today. One of the first things that I think is important to note about the text when you just get it is the image on the cover, which may or may not be familiar to you. But if this is or an image, I should say, of the hoodie that Trayvon Martin wore the evening he was shot and killed by Zimmerman. So we are going to get some information just from the visual text. In fact, that's one of the questions that I think is really important with this particular text, in that it's going to ask us to pay attention to its visual presence. If you'll notice when you get the book, there are if you have the physical copy, which maybe this doesn't matter as much, it's very different than just a different kind of poetry book. So this is how this book looks. I wish I could tell you the feel of it, not that maybe matters to you. But we have images that are incorporated in this one. In fact, and we have strange images in here as well, right? At the end of even this very first section, and we'll talk about that as well as we go forward. And as you go into the text even more, you're going to notice there's like screenshots of the YouTube channel. There's a roll of film that's been broken down into its individual frames from the 1994 World Cup. The finals match of that. So the text itself is very highly reliant on visual presence and what we see when we look at it. And when you look at it again, right, the poems themselves, the page by pages, they don't necessarily feel lineated, right, because they aren't. They're more like these prose paragraphs. Whereas if you were to look at a different book, this is called The Problem of the Many. This is my son. My son did this today. This was his very into this book today. He also did this. So we have some pretty cool moments. Have it on here. This book, right? So to me, if you were to show me this particular book, I would say, yeah, that's a book of poems. Sorry, I don't have to put my face in that. So yeah, this is like a book of poems, right? It looks like a poem. It's lineated. There's verse to it. I turned it to a page in here, and I feel like this just seems like short paragraphs. So, what do I do with that? What do I not do with that? Right now, it's important that we just note it, right? Your goal with a research paper and this project is always to find a way to teach me the book, right? Find a way for it to help me better understand it. What component thing do you think is interesting? And this book is highly referential and can allow you to go in many different directions. So I'm excited to see what direction you go with it. Please read ahead, right? You'll probably end up writing about one section pretty specifically. So you want to make sure that you find something that is something of interest to you. It is a timely book given the Black Lives Matter protests. So it's going to be dealing with race and race relations in the United States. It's going to be dealing not mainly, but quite often with what is known as microaggressions, which is something you can definitely research and learn more about. But the text is going to try to show you through a number of different poetic devices, such as really the use of the second person is a major component of this one, and a number of the images as well. So as we begin the text, what we begin to see automatically is that we have, I'm going to call them vignettes, vignettes. Also, we can think of them as like anecdotes. They tell these little stories. So the opening page, on page 5, we have this story of a person who is sitting in a classroom as a child. Actually, it starts with her asleep with this idea, but it's not a her, it's a you, like you, always second person. So when you are alone, too tired even to turn on any of your devices, let yourself linger in a past stacked among the pillows. So basically putting us in this scene of being in bed and watching your brain kind of spill out and recognizing that as we go in this space. And one of the things that she arrives on in the second paragraph here, she says the root is often associative, thinking back to your past, and there's a bug just like randomly swatting. Luckily, only like 5 of you watch this, so I think it's okay. You smell good. That's what it says in the text. You smell good. You are 12, and that's the associative leap, right? She says the root is often associative. So she's in bed. She's lying down. She's kind of going through her memory, and as she's doing this, she was, hey, I smell good. I took a shower, or whatever. I smell good, and it calls up this memory. Scent is always tied to memory. It's one of the senses most of that associated with memory, and so she realizes there's this moment when she was a child where there's a girl behind her who asks her to let her cheat. And that becomes part of this discussion about, from the very beginning, what does it mean for the characters in here, for the people in here, for the person, for anyone reading the book, to face each and every interaction with a person, a white person, to face each and every action with that space, with the question of, is this interaction based on the color of my skin? So this is the constant question that the book is asking. And it doesn't really know. You'll notice there's tons of questions in here. And it doesn't really tell us ever whether or not that's true. It's not actually political, though you may hear politics in the way I'm describing it, but it's not really political. What it is, I think it's an attempt to get readers to recognize the emotional wear of the political issue, right? So we can discuss it in the politic, but this is way more about the presence of the self, right? What does it mean to be a person who faces this instance? And that's how the book opens, in memory and this space between, like, what is anyone, right, supposed to do, but most significantly a person of color. What could this be doing? What is this reality? And it moves us into a couple of different places here, into the very next page. Now, the very next page, we get the next part of the story. And it says, Sister Evelyn, reference to the Catholic school she was at, never figures out your arrangement, perhaps because you never turn around to copy Mary Catherine's answers. Sister Evelyn must think these two girls think a lot alike, or she cares less about cheating and more about humiliation, or she never actually saw you sitting there. So to be present, to be seen, right? This is the image that we get at the end. To be seen, what does it mean to have that one? And the very next thing you see at the bottom of the page is a screenshot, or it's a photograph of a stop sign where the side street is Jim Crow Road. So, why show that image, right? Why show us that particular image? And if you turn to the back of the book, you see that this is an image by the photographer David Murphy. I keep doing that with my face. So she's telling us this belongs to a person. It belongs to a picture that they've taken. And she's giving us the venue, the avenue here, to actually go and find out more about this particular person. So for instance, so this is a place where I want you to think about 2 different kinds of research that you can do here. One is the research on Jim Crow, okay? Actually, maybe 3. I'm gonna go with 3, and the power of each and every one of them, maybe. So one is Jim Crow, the history of Jim Crow. What do you know about Jim Crow, right? And especially in the South, right? Jim Crow laws would have been in effect. This is a place where, if you don't know what Jim Crow is, if you have no idea about the history of the rules, of the Jim Crow rules and the Jim Crow laws, then this image won't mean anything to you, right? It won't mean anything. It'll just be the picture of the backside of a stop sign with some houses to the left and to the right of them. And that will, of course, be part of the point of the text and part of the problem of the history of our nation, which is that you may have lived your life without ever having heard of what Jim Crow was and how long it went, right? Not that long ago. So that's a research area that we're being invited to explore, to understand it in more detail and to ask it questions and to see, how is this book dealing with this particular issue? And then the second thing that we can go look at, now that one, so the first thing we have there, that's background information. That is understanding the historical reality of the United States of America, specifically in the South, and understanding how it relates to people of color living in this current day. This photo was taken, I believe this is in 2006. Let me double check my facts before I say yes to that one. Yeah, I'm sorry, 2008. So 12 years ago, this is a real thing. This place exists. So that's another place we can look at there, is that we can think about the information, the historical reality of this particular sign and understanding what it means. And that can give you a lot of information that might help somebody better understand what this book is trying to do. And then you can also, in the middle of this, you can think about another research component, which is the artist himself, or themselves. Whereas we have Jim Crow Road here, and he took this picture, and he has a website, and there's a space that we can see what the artist statement is, what is the approach of the artist in relation to race, how does art understand race and race understand art, and what are these combinations of things, which might lead us into a tangential research spot about thinking about how race and entertainment and race and artistry are inextricably linked in the United States and the history of the United States. And then, and so that gives us a whole avenue of research we could go to with this one picture. And then the third place we could go to is actually seeing what this place is. Where is this? And you can get like on Google Maps and find that and get a little bit of history of the place where this appears. And will all of those be super interesting and helpful and tell us everything we need to know about this book? No. But what they do is they fundamentally show us something that we didn't already know that much about, maybe a little bit about, but not that much about at all. I'm sure you don't know anything about, the photographer or the place in Georgia where it is found, this particular sign, but you may know something about Jim Crow, or you may not know anything about any of these. So we're being invited by this book to explore American history and to explore the psychology of American history and its current day reality with each and every page. And she's going to be using imagery and memory and the discussion of anecdotes and vignettes, as well as visual information to get us to continue that exploration. So that's really where we want to start here. So I've given you kind of a thesis, and which I think is kind of, this book is sort of a bit historical in that regard. And I've tried to also show you where you can find some research just by beginning the particular text. So hopefully this is a good introduction for you. It kind of gets you started thinking about Citizen. And then I'll do one more that explains maybe a little bit more in depth about another poem and how we can apply close reading to this already very engaging and research heavy text. So good luck. I guess go Mets. That's what this hat's for. So go Mets. I don't really care that much, but sometimes you just gotta say stuff into a camera on a night.